One, two. Okay, everybody, thank you so much. Sorry we're late again. He's complained, Peter. We were waiting for Peter and Thomas Gallagher. Thomas Gallagher. We were waiting for Thomas Gallagher and Peter. That's what held us back. Guys, thank you very much. Thanks a million, everybody, for turning up again. And thank you for everybody for tuning on online. As I say, it's not about numbers, but it's averaging from 100 to 200 or 300 people, families every week watching online. Again, we're continuing the process of inviting a special guest speaker. Tonight we're very, very privileged because not only do we have flown the whole way in from America after his sellout retreat in Knock, Marianologist and theologian Dr. Peter Howard. And then next week we jump onto the procession next Sunday. So at Monday night we're going to take a break. We're going to resume back on Monday the 1st of December with local legend Bernie Smith, pro-life. 5 times she's been jailed for taken to court for her protest against abortion. And then the week after that, we've got Charlie McDade coming back because he was healed by the Padre Pio glove. That's the 8th of December, the Feast of Immaculate Conception. We're going to take a break from the 8th of December through to the first week of January, just to give everybody a break. And so tonight, ladies and gentlemen, without further ado, I'd love to welcome good friend of mine now, Dr. Peter Howard, ladies and gentlemen.
All right. Oh, thanks, Baz. It's always a joy to be here. I haven't been here before. It's been a great joy to be in Ireland for the last week. We had a retreat in Mullaghmore, just in Sligo, and then Saturday, we had a wonderful event at Knock. It was a Fulton Sheen day. Was anybody there by any chance? Oh, okay. So you might know. You may hear a couple of things similar, because as of today, when Baz says, "Oh, you're going to speak," I say, "Oh, what am I speaking about?" I don't know. You're just Holy Spirit. I'm like, okay. So anyway, it's kind of nice that I don't have like a spotlight on me, because it's could be, well, actually no. We have like a slide of our Blessed Mother, or. So you know what? Oh, I can't. Can I just put? What if I did that? I'm not commandeering your computer. I'm just getting your bank account. But this was being here in Derry was something that I was a little bit talked into by Baz. At that time, I knew him as Barry, so I guess I'm in the inner crowd now. He's like, "No, call me Baz." So, but we're in an extraordinary moment of history. We all know that. And I have to say, within the last week since I've been here, personally, I've experienced this acceleration of we're already in an acceleration, but it's rare that I feel the Holy Spirit moving in such powerful ways, where I truly feel like I can't keep up what's going on. And then I come here and I talk to Baz and others, and the language is like 5 times as fast. Like we all speak English, right? Can I say English? We all, we all speak it, but it's like, oh my gosh, it's crazy, different world. But of all the things that I was briefly praying about in the chapel was, we're in the moment of history, and tonight I got, oh my gosh, like a master's course in about 2 encounters with Thomas Gallagher of the history of this region and this place. And we just started talking about Claire Crockett and begin to see that there are no accidents when God moves, especially in such big waves. And what's happening this coming Sunday is, at least from my angle, because I watched from the U.S. the first one in February. That was my first introduction to all of this. I deeply feel in my heart and in my soul that this is a much more intense, not just a repeat, but a continuation of that, and a movement of exorcism that needs to happen in these lands, and from these lands rippling all throughout Europe, across the Atlantic, where we are, especially where there is such a strong Irish-American connection. You know, over half of our immigrants, when the big immigration wave came over in the late 1800s and beginning of the 20th century, was from Ireland. And we've always had a very special relationship with them. For me, my great passion is Venerable Fulton Sheen. Hopefully he'll be blessed soon. And I truly believe that he has a role in all of this too, with Ireland and its future and what's going on. One of the connections that came to my mind, because Baz, myself, Thomas, maybe you know Mark McLean. You know Mark McLean? Anybody here know Mark? We have a fascination, I would say a divine fascination, because it's something that God is using us to help to do, is to put or connect the dots for people. Why are things happening? As Fulton Sheen would say, you can either be a journalist or you can be a theologian. A journalist simply tells you what happens. A theologian tells you why it happens and what really matters. And God has been moving many of us to do this, but I find it interesting how he's brought us together this week, because Mark will be here at the end of the week before we have the procession. But just one of the things literally coming from Knock to here was I didn't know too much about Knock on a deeper level. And then listening to a podcast with Baz talking about Knock and putting all these dates like a machine gun, all these things together, I was like, oh my gosh, this is overwhelming. In a good way, but I was like, I'm going to have to play this back 10 times and at half speed. So then it sounds like I'm hearing one of my own. But one of the things that hit me, because when I was in Knock, I'm like, okay, I'm here, I'm in Knock, and I'm giving a conference on Venerable Fulton Sheen and why he is important. Not just because, I have a fascination or a passion with him, and things that, working on things such as his teaching on Mary's mediatrix. That was my doctorate. And now that's a big issue coming out of Rome. And I was like, oh my gosh, what is it, 2008 to today, 17 years later, it's as if what I did in 2008 has now come to term of, this is how you want to answer this debate. Here it is. Like, it's in a way only Fulton Sheen can do it. But Sheen died in 1979 on December 9th. December 9th is an extraordinary day because it's in the history of the church. It was the original date of the Immaculate Conception. Did you know that? December 8th only became later on, more toward the time of the dogma in 1854 onward, then it became more solidified in the liturgy on December 8th. And that's important because Juan Diego went, when he was going in miles into the heart of what is now Mexico City, he was going to Mass. And the liturgy of that day was the Immaculate Conception in the calendar. So Our Lady appears in the middle of the Americas as connected to the mystery of the Immaculate Conception. And then one of the names that she revealed when she was there in the Aztec language was Guadalupe, which means the woman who crushes the serpent, which is Genesis 3:15, which is the first liturgical reading we have when we celebrate the solemnity of the Immaculate Conception. But in the miraculous image on the Toma, she's the woman clothed with the sun, with the moon under her feet. And so we see Mary in Our Lady Guadalupe as the bookends of Revelation, Genesis and literally the apocalypse. One of the things we were talking about earlier, the meaning of the word apocalypse. Everybody hears apocalypse and they're thinking like apocalypse now or the end of the world. This is apocalyptic. When the word in Greek, it's apocalypsis, and it simply means unveiling. That's why in the event, at the end of the book of the Apocalypse says what? The Spirit and the bride say, come. The whole revelation that's taking place in the book of the Apocalypse is the unveiling of the bride from the bridegroom. and it's all within the context of a liturgy. St. John is taken up, and he's brought up into the heavenly liturgy. Then he goes back down, and he's in the battle. Then he goes back up, he's back down. Everything is within the context, this cosmic sense within the liturgy. And so my mind was going through a lot of places, as it is right now, because then what do you have in Knock? You have this apocalypse, this apocalyptic vision taken right out of the book of the Apocalypse. And I know I just mentioned a bunch of things, but December 9th with Sheen's death is one thing, because it, like Fulton Sheen says, God doesn't do anything in history without the greatest finesse of detail. That one line is pretty much the passion behind what we have. What is the divine wisdom in the details of history? That, we're talking about Quito, Ecuador, Our Lady of Good Success. Who would have thought that at that time she's talking about the Freemasons, that it would be more relevant now? And now I learned that really the center of Freemasonry was right here. So talk to Thomas when you want to learn more about that, but maybe Baz as well, because my mind was getting blown about that. But my point with Our Lady Guadalupe, and of course is tying with Fulton Sheen, is because Our Lady Guadalupe in 1531 began this fourth age of the church. The church, the way Sheen described it, works in 500-year cycles. And we always had a great pope at the turning of each one, which was like a very hard time for the church. And then God gave us Gregory the Great in the first turning. Then the next one at the millennium, he gave us Gregory the Seventh. And then in the third turning in the 16th century, during the Protestant Revolution, you then have Pope St. Pius V. And then Fulton Sheen said, he said this right before he died in his autobiography. He said, a new pope will come and will be known as one of the greatest popes the church has ever known. And it's John Paul II, who very explicitly said, my role is to prepare the church and guide it into the third millennium. And then I've since learned so many connections that St. John Paul II had with Ireland. And when he visited in 1979, which now takes me to the next digit with Sheen's death, he died December 9th, 1979. And I've always seen Fulton Sheen as a John the Baptist kind of a figure in one sense. He prepared the way for St. John Paul II to come, who would take the world by storm, almost the exact words of Sheen. He would draw the whole world to himself. And with 1979, now you're at the 100th anniversary of Our Lady of Knock. So I'm at this point now where I'm now trying to see the wisdom of that, because we're seeing these book of Our Lady Guadalupe, 1531. The end of that 500 years is 2031. And if you look at the calendar, at least as it was revealed to Blessed Anne Catherine Emmerich in her recorded visions that she had on the life of Christ, in one particular one, she describes how Jesus was, like, basically, I think, debating with the Egyptians about the errors of its calendar, of all the details of visions that she would get. She had this one, and she had enough information. It was how old the world was at that time and the age of Jesus. And when you do the math on it, it means that the year of redemption of Calvary would have been AD 31, not 33. So then you could begin to see, of course, my mind goes right back. Well, wow, 1531, 2031. 2031 is the 2000th anniversary of redemption. It's the 500th anniversary of Our Lady of Guadalupe, who has a message really to the whole world. Because if you know the story of Our Lady of Guadalupe, it doesn't begin in 1531. It begins all the way back to the Apostle Luke, who carved a statue out of wood of Mary with the baby Jesus. And this statue was then given to, I think it was Pope Leo the Great, and then it was handed down to the Bishop of Sevilla, where within this bishop's Bishop Leander, I believe was his name, he's a saint, for his Marian piety. That statue then was gifted to him, and he was in a place that now is called Guadalupe, Spain. Because when the Muslims came, they're against images, they're against statues, anything that, physical. So the statue was hidden, and it was hidden for 600 years when the Muslims were occupying the land. Then a shepherdman who was out, and he was inspired, he was told by our Blessed Mother to go find the statue, where he'd find it. He found it in a cave near a river, and with the Arabic, in the Spanish it was Guadalupe, and that's not even the best pronunciation, but it was very close. So it became, by the Spaniards, Guadalupe, the Wolf River, or it also meant river of light. And so on this place was they built a royal monastery in Spain, and it was from this royal monastery that, and at this monastery where Christopher Columbus received the approval for all of his funding, all the papers, everything for his voyage to go discover what became the New World. Cortez also went there, who lived in that neighborhood. You can